we up? Good morning, or whatever time it is where you are and where you're watching this. I'm John Willingham with Sunbelt Business Brokers and Advisors of Bakersfield, and I'm here with our crew. We've got Steve Stranathan here, we've got Russ Allred and Carol Bennett, and in keeping with our promise to you to bring you value in every one of these webcasts that we do, we're going to be talking about the business buying, owning, and selling process over these next few weeks. And we feel like the best place to start then would be in the process of actually buying a business. And so we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be discussing some questions that we have. Whatever time it is. The first question is we need to turn all our cell phones off.
Well, we're watching Facebook Live here.
Yeah.
Turn your sound off.
So turn the sound off.
It's like when you're on the radio and they say, turn the sound down. What?
Exactly.
Okay. So when we talk about buying a business right, or whether we should buy a business or start a business, those are some of the things we're going to be exploring today. And so first off, I want Keisha to come around here. Can you?
Introduce everybody first.
Huh?
Do you want to introduce everybody first?
I did it.
Oh, you did? Oh.
Yeah. Except I didn't introduce Keisha. She's our producer, also my daughter, and she knows a lot more about this than we do. So she's going to tell us how it's going to work, and if you have any comments or questions that you would like to have answered, how to get that done.
So first of all, I just want to say thanks for joining us. As with all Facebook Lives, if you have any questions or comments, just post them down below. I'll be watching in the background, and so I'll let the team know what your questions are. There may or may not have an opportunity to answer them during this Facebook Live, but we will definitely do that. You can always give us a call also at 661-323-2358. And enjoy, ask away. Looking forward to it.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about buying a business. And Russ, do you think it's better to buy a business or just start up your own from scratch?
Well, if I may, I'd like to set up a scenario. Let's say you want to start a business, a simple business, a restaurant. And typically the restaurateur goes out and finds a place. They lease the place and put out a lot of money. Then they go to a restaurant supply house and they buy all of their equipment, and they put out a lot of money for brand new equipment. And then they need the other technology, maybe a television on the wall, all of their computer equipment, their point of purchase equipment, their software that supports that, and they have put out loads and loads of money. And they have their big grand opening, and literally they pray that somebody shows up and buys a hamburger.
And don't forget they got to hire a bunch of people and train them.
all of the stuff necessary and all of the money you put out to buy the business, and typically you're paying the top dollar because it's brand new, and you have no idea whether or not anybody's going to come set foot in that restaurant. So that's the startup of a business. If you buy a business, there's already people coming in, because we as business brokers, we're going to show you the financials of that business. You're going to be able to see over the last 3-4 years maybe how many people have come in, how much money has been spent, how much money has been made, what repairs have been done, what the lease has been, how the landlord treats you. You're going to be able to verify all of these things, and most importantly, you're going to, after you sign the check to purchase your business, you're going to have a paycheck at the end of the month. If you buy wisely, that is what purchasing a business offers you. You don't have the anxiety of hoping that somebody comes in and buys from you. You will know that that business has been around for a while, and people are going to come in and buy from you. So when I consider whether it's better to start a business or buy a business, I always believe it's better to buy. And for the most part, when you walk into a business, you're able to see, you know what, if I owned this business, I would change that waitress, or I would change the positioning of the service cart or whatever. But you make those decisions to improve the restaurant the way you want it to be, and it enhances your investment and makes you money.
Okay. So Carol,
Mm-hmm.
when you're buying a business, do you think it's, when we talk about the business to buy right now, first, well, this question, I just don't really understand this at all.
Well,
Business
I
to
think
buy right now. Oh, business,
Well,
or I should say businesses to buy right now.
Yeah, basically, we have a lot of different businesses. Most of them are going to be service businesses. We have restaurants like you say, Russ. We have all kinds of different, nail salons, all the way up to gas stations. I mean, I've got a mortuary right now. You just never know what's going to come your way. So if you're looking for a business, they're changing. The inventory is changing all the time. So if you're looking for something in particular and we don't have it, we might have it, a couple weeks from now. But we have a list that you can go on our site and take a look at and see if something interests you. It has to be something that you like, something that you can see yourself doing, be passionate about. A lot of times the people that call us are looking at one particular business, but once we get them on the phone, we find out they're actually looking for something else. As long as they get a little guidance and we ask a few questions, it can help bring out some things that maybe they didn't think before. So.
Okay. And Steve, talking about buying a business and having a business that's all positioned to start making money from day one, and some of the things that you need to get in place. Recently, Steve was involved in a gas station mini-mart sale, and there were a lot of things that we needed to get in place. One of the things was, what do you call it, the supplier of the gas, the provider.
Oh, the jobber.
Jobber, that's what they call them, the jobber. And so tell us a little bit about that process of getting that jobber on board. Because it's not just easy to go out and get a jobber. Sometimes they turn a location down.
Well, on a jobber, when you're looking at a gas station and you're going through the process, one of the things, and it's complicated, that what is that the gas station buyer has to get a contract with the jobber, and it could be for a couple of years, 10 years. And then also there's a little niche is that the finance part of it, they also have to recognize the jobber to be able to finance. So all these little things come into play, and they all are interrelated to be able to get a contract with the jobber and also to be able to get your loan. So it's an interesting process.
Right. And if you don't have a jobber in the first place, going out and getting one, we've tried to have jobbers accept some sites that we've had before, but they like to see a lot of volume if you're going to be pumping gas. If you don't do a lot of volume, it's going to be hard to get a jobber to accept your location. So all of these things are solved for you if you're buying an existing business. So, Russ, what should you look for in a business to buy? Well, what should they look for, I guess we would say.
It is easiest if you select a business where you have some exposure. The importance of a network in your business is invaluable. And if you need to have repair people, you need to have people that are knowledgeable in the industry, you need to understand the technology of the industry, but most important, you need to understand the people that make things happen in that industry. And when you have either a hobby or a background in your profession where you know people that can help you with your business and help it to grow, or could be customers of you, you need to be in an industry where you have some exposure. And the only thing that that could substitute for experience in the industry is, as Carol said earlier, a passion for what you're doing, that you absolutely love it, that you can't wait to get up in the morning and work in this industry. That is where you want to be. That is the business you want to buy. I will go back and say one thing though. You can take an existing business and add your passion to it. You can tweak the business to your ends. We have a client, in fact, I'll give her a shameless plug. She purchased her business is called Locale. It's a bistro, a restaurant downtown. And she bought it. It was a sandwich shop. And it was built in an old gas station. And it was next door to just a beat up old building. But she had a vision of making it a beautiful restaurant with delicious cuisine. And she altered that business. She bought the mechanics of it, the stoves and the tables, and she altered it to make it her own. And she's been voted one of the hottest new businesses, new restaurants in Bakersfield. Heather Laganelli is the owner, and it's a downtown restaurant called Locale Farm to Table.
Next question.
Next question is for Carol. How much should you expect to have to put down on a business? How are you going to finance it? What are you going to do?
Exactly. I mean, before you even think about how much to put down, do you have cash? Have you talked to a lender? What can you buy? What can you afford? You have to think about that. I mean, I have a lot of experience in real estate, so it was the same idea for buying a house. You have to know what you can afford. So you start there. And then the rest is, you know, working with that lender and knowing, okay, this is what I'm going to put down. This is what I'm going to owe on the loan. Or maybe you do seller financing. Maybe you don't have a lot of cash. Most of what happens in buying businesses comes from cash, but then cash is usually the hardest thing for people to come up with. So if you've got it, great. If you don't, you can go to a lender.
That's right. We have some other things that you can do. You can roll over your 401k if you're coming out of a lot of companies are downsizing right now, closing, that sort of thing, the bigger companies. And when they do, a lot of those companies have 401ks that the employee has a right to. You can take that 401k and you can roll that into the purchase of a business. And we have part of our service to our clients is knowing how to do all these things and getting them hooked up with the right people that can help them with that. And that particular thing is kind of like threading a needle. So you don't want to get that done improperly, or you could end up taxable on all your 401k money. So you can do that. So you can roll your 401k out of your work. Maybe you've lost your job, you've been downsized, and you can use your 401k to buy a business. A lot of people don't know that. SBA has been recently very easy to work with. There's a lot of money out there, the economy's going good, and so there's a lot of SBA lenders and a lot of flexibility in that marketplace right now. We have seen in the past when things got a little iffy, a little tight, like in 2008, 2009, virtually most of those SBA lenders were, a lot of them closed and just got out of the business entirely, and the ones that stayed were very, very tough to work with. So before that, we had been doing seller financing mostly. And sellers expect to get 30 to 40% down, and then they'll feel comfortable carrying the financing on the balance. And we still do that because some businesses just don't lend themselves very well to SBA financing. And especially if a seller's income doesn't look exactly like it should, but we suspect there may be more income there than it looks like there is on the income tax returns. The best way we can tell that is if the seller is willing to finance that business. If the seller will finance the business, then we know that that's a good business, because that's the only way the seller can get paid. And if we can't get financing otherwise, often we will prevail on the seller to go ahead and finance that business, and they will. So let's see, what else? When it comes to paying for a business, Russ, how, we're talking price-wise now, how do you figure what you should pay for a business?
Well, we as business brokers are going to help you with that. We offer a business for sale based on some statement of fact, typically a tax return, the most recent tax return, and the year-to-date financial statements for the business is where we tend to price the business. A business's value is not in its stuff. It's not in the tables and chairs and camera equipment. The value of a business is in how much it produces for you, the owner. So when you're looking for a business to buy, you look for the business that produces the most money for you based on the investment that you make. You also have to be careful that the business produces sufficient revenue to pay you and your loan. You're going to probably give up the job that you have to operate this business, and so you need to be able to pay your bills while you're working at the business and developing it to your purposes. I also always want to go back to the point is when you buy a business, yes, you are buying the cash flow. You are buying it based on history, but you are making the investment in the business because of what you're going to make the business to be. If you anticipate that the business will always just produce this amount of money, you are wrong. If you don't put the effort into it, it will produce less. And you want to be motivated to put the effort into the business to get out of it what you want. So it's a very dynamic. Business is always changing and always moving, and the value of a business is based on the cash that it produces to the buyer. We use a term called seller's discretionary earnings. In larger businesses, we use the term EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. That's kind of a sophisticated way of valuing a business, but we use in an owner-operated business a term called seller's discretionary earnings. We call it SDE. Oftentimes, an owner-operated business will write the owner a check, but the business also pays for their phone, it pays for their car, it pays for their travel, it pays for entertainment. There's many things that the business pays for that the owner doesn't show as income on the tax return. In many of these instances, it is legal and appropriate, but we have to pull it out from the financial statement and show you that really the benefit to this owner is their seller's discretionary earnings rather than a typical net earnings. There, I think I've said all that.
Did you cover it? We've had some fun experiences. One time I was thinking about listing a business, but the cash flow is just terrible. And if the business if it's got a cash register, it's so easy for the owner to rake money out of the cash register. And if they're doing that, then it's very difficult to prove that income and makes that business very hard to sell. I had one guy who his daughter did not work in the business. In fact, she was attending college at UCLA, and he was paying her $40,000 a year. I think that was probably her tuition. Anyway, I told him, that just doesn't seem right. But we adjusted that anyway, because that was a person who wasn't actually working in the business, did not require replacement. So those are the kind of things that we would adjust in seller's discretionary earnings. Carol, when we talk about buying a business, there's all levels of business, and we call them from small to large. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we basically work with middle market, which would be, there's the small mom and pop. They're not a franchise. Then you've got what we call the middle market or Main Street, and that is going to be probably netting about $500,000 and less. And then you talk about mergers and acquisitions, and then you're going into something that nets over $1 million. So what we normally work with, we do franchises, but we also work with non-franchises. But I would say on average, we might be selling a business anywhere from maybe 250,000 to 550,000, and that would be more of your mainstream. So now that's not including real estate. Sometimes there's commercial property that goes along with that, and that's a little bit different. But yeah, there's a different way of looking at the businesses. What type of business is this?
Yeah, so basically we're looking at three different levels. We're looking at the small mom and pop. We call that the Main Street type marketplace. And then there's kind of an in-between thing that we call middle market. We work a lot in the middle market, and we work a lot in Main Street. And then you move on up into the food chain into what we call mergers and acquisitions. We do mergers and acquisitions. A lot of times when you get up in the middle market, you'll kind of be treating a middle market transaction like a Main Street transaction in the marketing process. But then what happens, you'll get a more sophisticated buyer, and it kind of turns into more like a merger and acquisition. So we'll get a larger company wanting to buy a smaller company, or we have these other things, call them private equity groups, PEGs for short. And if you like our mortuary that we have listed, turns out there are a lot of, another type of buyer we have is we call them a pro buyer. And so we've got one group that's looking at this mortuary, and they own already 115 other locations. So they're a pro buyer, and that'll probably be it'll be a middle market transaction because of the size of the business. But in some ways, it's really an acquisition, isn't it? Because they're acquiring it to merge it into their other 115 locations. So we were talking a little bit about capital. Steve kind of hinted around how, and then I talked about SBA as well. So where do we get our capital for these purchases?
Well, most of us save our money and save up for the dream that we have of someday owning our own business. And that saved money is the most popular means of providing capital for a business. John said earlier about utilizing your retirement savings, and what it actually does is convert your retirement from a 401k or an IRA. It converts that retirement account, and you create a corporation, and that corporation now becomes your retirement account. So you move it from this retirement account to your own corporation, that's the new retirement account, and you say where you invest that money. Well, I'm going to invest my retirement dollars into that business, and that business is going to provide for my retirement. That's the legal transaction that we have to go through. And the reason we do that is because there's no tax disadvantage. You don't have to pay the taxes on the money you take out of your retirement account and put it into this corporation, because it's still a retirement account. You could borrow against a life insurance policy, which your own life insurance policy becomes your bank, and you draw from the capital in there, and it doesn't eliminate your life insurance. It's still there to pay you in your loss, but you borrow against the principal that you've put into your life insurance policy against your future demise. If you're a business owner and you're trying to expand your business by buying another business, you might want to consider, if I were to increase my business by advertising, and I'm going to invest this coming year $50,000 into an advertising campaign, and I am pretty much guaranteed that 1% of my advertising dollars is going to yield a person of interest that might come in and buy from me. So you pay $50,000 and you get 1 in 5,000 people or that come and do business with you. That's not a big return on your investment. But if you take the same $50,000 and invest it, so there's your capital, and invested it in a business like yours that would complement your business or expand your business, and you got the owner of that business to finance the purchase, you could effectively double your business within a year's period of time for the same money that you would have spent in an advertising campaign. These are structures that we can share with you because of our position and experience. We can share these structures with you to get you the most return for the capital that you invest.
Good answer. Good answer. And of course, there's the seller. They'll provide financing for you in many cases. And then SBA, and then commercial banks will. If you've got equity in real estate, you can always borrow on that. And usually, I know a lot of people don't like to encumber their single family residence where they live. However, that is some of the best interest rate and best terms that you can get. So if you have a lot of equity in your home, you can use that equity to finance a business as well. So Carol, what lenders and escrow companies do we use?
Those that work with businesses.
Those that work with
good
businesses.
choice.
That's my answer.
That's a good answer.
Anyone want to expand on that one?
Well, it's true because we've had some bad experiences, certainly with escrow officers. And then, of course, lenders, we use lenders that we know are in the market. And you got lenders that are in the market, but they're very, very particular. You can't have any warts or pimples on the business at all. And if you do, they're not interested. We've got lenders that are what we call cash flow lenders. So they're pure business opportunity lenders. And other lenders look more heavily at the real estate and that sort of thing. If you don't have any real estate, then those lenders aren't going to be interested at all. So there's lots of different sources of financing, and we know them all. We know the guys that are in, we know the guys that are out, right, Steve?
Oh, absolutely.
And we know the guys that don't like warts or pimples. So, and if you, I'm not saying that those lenders aren't good. They are good, but they're only good for a very few transactions. So, I think that's about all we were going to discuss today. Now, next week, what we're going to talk about is next month, not next week. I keep wanting to think we're going to do this every week, but we're only going to do it once a month on
the second Tuesday.
The what Tuesday?
Second Tuesday
The second Tuesday
of the month.
So we'll be back then. We also are going to be posting this. Of course, it's up on Facebook. It'll also be up on our website. We're going to be getting that handled. And how soon are we doing that, Keisha?
I would say probably by next week it'll be up on the website. That's going to be.
Okay, so it'll be up on our website as well. So thank you very much for listening to us. We hope you listened, and we hope you'll listen to us again. We'll be notifying you, of course, when we're going to be doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
What's your favorite saying? Tell birds